Welcome to the presentation on the personal statement. So the personal statement is one of the most difficult elements of a law school application for many people, in part because it's so open-ended. You can write about whatever you want. That being said, there are three basic rules that you should follow. First, it needs to be personal. Second, you need to have a theme. And third, the person reading your personal statement needs to understand why you're applying to law school. Let's look at each one of those. So number one, the personal statement needs to be personal. This sounds obvious, but there are two mistakes that applicants commonly make. First, people often write about an idea as opposed to themselves. So for example, people write about the field of law they'd like to study or the cause about which they're passionate. You can certainly write about abstract ideas, but you need to quickly pivot from the idea to how that idea made you feel, what it has already inspired you to do, and what it will inspire you to do in law school or as a lawyer. Similarly, people often write about someone else, not themselves. So for example, people will write almost 2 pages about their mother or their father, and then at the very end, they'll throw in a few sentences about how their father inspires them to be a better lawyer. You can certainly write about other people. A parent, an aunt can be a character in your personal statement. But similar to what I just said about abstract ideas, you need to define those people, explain who they are, and then quickly pivot to talking about how those people have made you feel, what they've inspired you to actually do yourself. So this really is one of the few times in life when it's all about you. Second rule, your personal statement needs a theme. There are thousands of possible themes, but you need to pick one. You need to pick one theme that holds the disparate anecdotes in your personal statement together. Let me give you a few examples of potential themes. One, it could be a cause. So if you are going to law school because you want to save the environment, or you're passionate about antitrust or voting rights or religious liberty or tax reform, that could be the theme holding your statement together. Some people don't have a cause so much as they have an interest. So maybe your interest is analysis or conflict resolution, exegesis, closely analyzing text. These are all themes that I've seen before that have worked very well. Interests are often more abstract. So to give you kind of an example of how this would work, if your theme is analysis, in that essay, someone began with an anecdote about staying up all night in the library, writing an analytical essay, really falling in love with that type of writing. It then transitioned to a couple of accomplishments at Georgetown that were analytical, then transitioned to some analytical work done in a job, concluded with, I want to go to law school to analyze stuff. So in a sense, the person was just highlighting the most relevant experiences the person had had, but each one fell under this umbrella of analysis. Another common theme is the transferable skills developed in fill in the blank. So I've seen personal statements that highlight skills developed in sewing, piano, dance, baseball, debate, mountain climbing. And then those statements apply those transferable skills to law school. So for example, statement about sewing begins with a discussion of sewing. In that discussion, talks about identifying patterns, interpreting dense text and creating something with it, paying attention to detail, then transitions to how those skills have been used in other areas of life, concludes with using those skills in law school. And again, you could do that model with anything from an instrument to a sport to something like debate. Identity or experience is another common theme, and I'll talk a bit more about that in just a minute. But many people use sort of themselves as some aspect of themselves or a single experience that they've had to tie their personal statement together. Rule number 3, when the admissions officer reading your essay puts it down, she should understand why you want to attend law school. As a bonus, she should understand why you'll excel in law school. So this often means either highlighting relevant skills or frankly, just writing the statement very well. But really, I want to focus on this first point here. If your theme is antitrust or voting rights, the connection to law school is inherently clear. Like if that's what you're passionate about, you go to law school. If your theme is surfing or baseball or touring with your band, that's when this rule becomes very important. If your theme is surfing, I'm going to need at least a solid paragraph as the admissions officer, if not more, explaining what about that is bringing you here to law school. And so maybe it's the passion for the environment that you developed from being in the ocean. Maybe it was learning to take risks. I don't know what it was, but you're going to need to explain it very clearly. Returning to identity or an experience as a theme, there are many ways to do this, but let me share one potential formula if you decide that you're going to use your identity or a specific experience as a theme. So 1, you describe yourself or your experience. 2, you identify what you have accomplished because of the trait or experience. And then 3, you explain why this trait or experience leads you to law school. I'm highlighting this formula because most people skip number 2 on a first draft. So for example, your kind of identity experience might be that you grew up in rural poverty and you saw your family's labor exploited. That's number 1. Number 2, you then interned at a nonprofit that organizes farm labor. Maybe you took some labor-related courses in college. Number 3, you want to go to law school to protect workers' rights. The key there is not to skip that middle step, showing admissions officers that law school isn't your first attempt to accomplish something based on this aspect of your identity or your experience. You have already been inspired to act, and law school is just the next action that you will take as a result, again, of this element of your identity or this experience that you've had. So, personal statement. You can write about anything you want as long as it's personal, as long as you can identify the theme of your personal statement in a word or two, and as long as it makes sense that you're applying to law school.